Time for the Foxhole, your questions of sex and relationships with the effervescent Alix Fox. What have you been up to?
I went to a little titillating taster session for an upcoming conference called Pause Live, which is happening in October. And as the name suggests, it's all about the menopause. Now, I am 42 and extremely reluctantly starting to admit that this is something that I should
to recognise you might be an
contemplate.
interested party.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. But I have all sorts of emotions about this, as I think a lot of women do. I'm not somebody for whom biological children are in my destiny, but I still think that the possibility of that coming to a close
having that decision taken away.
It's sad, yeah. And despite all of the work I hopefully do to convince people that you don't just suddenly become a dried up old husk with no future, I think it is still such an inarguable moment of starting a new chapter in your life as a middle-aged woman that it's really difficult to escape elements of that which are saddening. You know, it's definitely provocative for me. I've been fucking fighting it, Ollie. I don't want it. It's not me.
But the conference was good, or the taster conference, whatever that is.
You know what? I found it really mixed. On one hand, they had a panel of very well qualified doctors. They also had a lot of aesthetic practitioners there who I have mixed feelings about.
You mean like plastic surgeons and stuff?
And people who are concerned with the sensations as well as the looks of your undercarriage. We've discussed this in the past. This is a political matter for me. Comfort, yes. Tightening it and whitening it for somebody else entirely, no, not for me.
Not on my Nelly.
Not on my Nelly, no.
And this month's question of sex comes from an anonymous Mann-fan who says, Alex, how do I find sex workers who are into belching? Just when you think you've heard every question. I am turned on by burps, and I'm finding it hard to find people who can fulfill my thrills without finding it disgusting.
Or shall we digest this topic, Ollie?
Yes, and then bring it out again in a triumphant blurp.
To help us chew it over, I spoke to two experts. Ana Valens.
Hold on. Experts in what?
Well, I shall explain.
But is it burping or sex work, or is it a combination of the two?
It is a combination
amazing.
of the two.
Okay. Your contact
Buy
expert.
one, get one free on
Your Rolodex is unique.
One is the excellent Ana Valens, who's a sex journalist who also works as a sex worker and an adult VTuber or lewd-tuber.
Lewd-tuber?
Yeah, making erotic content on YouTube. A lot of what she makes revolves around burping. And then I also chatted to Samantha, who's a trans woman who's a massive burp fetishist and makes some burp content herself too, primarily audio, I believe. Anna first explained to me how she got into this, because I was really intrigued.
I'm pleased you asked.
Yeah. How do you discover that burps are a kinky thing for you?
Yeah.
And how then do you start to go into producing that as content for others?
Yeah, I can't burp on demand. Like, I could drink a lot of fizzy drinks, but I'd still not be certain that I'm going to belch.
That would kind of make you a better burp content producer, though.
One of my many broadcasting skills.
Burp fetishists are not a monolith. But in the main, folks who are into burping prefer when a burp is organic.
Yes, the unexpected.
Yeah.
Sure.
And some of them actually, Samantha being one of them, also enjoy the sound of soda being drunk and the swooshing of it into the stomach and then the belch that follows. If someone sounds too much like they're desperately trying to swallow air and force a burp out.
Then it sounds like being sick, doesn't it? Which is different.
Yeah, and also it doesn't sound real.
Yeah, okay, fine. I mean, I'm trying not to be judgy, obviously. It really isn't attractive to me. Like, I mean, it's one of the things I wouldn't do in front of my partner.
Yeah.
Like, I fart in front of my wife, but I don't burp.
Wow, this is a big bone of contention between the two of us. I'm fine to burp in front of my partner. I would be mortified if I let rip with a bottom burp in front of him.
Okay.
I mean, I have. We're engaged to be married. We've lived together for years, and we will laugh at it. But I still find that quite embarrassing. I think I would want the ground to swallow me up if it was a stinky fart as well.
Okay.
Oh, God, no. No.
I'm not proud of it. My wife doesn't like me farting in front of her, but I do.
Some people do, though, don't they? They proudly let rip.
The woman of my dreams, obviously, is still out there. Anyway, Carry on. Why does Anna like burping then?
Well, Anna first got into producing burping content to support her journalism work. Relatable. And she actually started out making giantess content.
We've touched on this before in our episode about OnlyFans.
We have. We've reached up high to those 100 feet Amazonian women. She would pretend to be 1,000 feet tall, smushing men, and as part of that, gobbling them up. And she said, she said this was like lightning in a bottle. People loved it. And then as she dug kind of a bit more into that world, she discovered, firstly, ASMR.
Yes.
Autonomic sensory meridian response. These videos where people whisper or make sounds.
I'm going to smush some material all over my face. I'm going to lick the screen. Like, it's so fucking weird. I'm sorry. And again, I'm very pleased that people who like it can find it, but I don't understand how it's so popular. Like, what is latently in people that they like that?
I do love a lot of ASMR. I don't like the mukbang stuff where it's people eating. That actively turns me off.
I mean, if someone's chewing gum on the phone, I'm like, that's rude.
Some of it really makes me feel all tingly and relaxed. I often will listen to an Asian YouTuber called Latte pretending to give me a facial when I go to sleep.
Oh, I find it so weird. So weird. Freaks me out. Anyway.
But I also like the erotic side of it. I think those...
So, hold on. Can you just... I mean, are you into burp fetish? Is that what you're saying?
No,
okay,
no.
Right.
Burps are not my thing personally.
Right.
No shame on those who do like them. But I can see the appeal of somebody making sounds that are sensual. Mm-hmm. So that was something that Anna looked into. And she also found herself drawn to vor, which is the fetish for being eaten or being consumed or pretending to be someone who consumes others. It's kind of like a subsection of submission and dominance. Like the ultimate way of submitting to a giant woman is to be gobbled up and scrunched between their teeth and swallowed inside of their stomach. Mm-hmm. And as part of that, for some people who are drawn to that, they also want to hear the giantess who's eaten them belch with satisfaction afterwards.
Homer Simpson style.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more like Barney, isn't it? If you're going to pick a Simpson.
I thought so. I would have thought it was these big, resonant, bold burps that would turn people on. No. There's the whole gamut. Some of them are quite delicate.
Yes.
I think, again, it goes back to that authentic spontaneity thing sometimes. Like if someone does a little hiccupy burp in the middle of a conversation, then that is what tickles some people's pickle because it seems very real. And immersive for
but also
them.
like I guess it taps into like often with these kinks there's an element of shame, isn't there? Like you're not supposed to do it in polite company, so if someone lets one out sort of accidentally it's almost a bit scandalous and cheeky, isn't it?
You are really good at this, Ollie. I mean we've been doing this for a decade now and it still makes me glow when you're several steps ahead of me.
Sorry.
Anna told me that she also now has lots of friends in the burping content community.
The BCC?
Yeah, not the BBC. A friend of Anna's goes by the name of B, aka Puppy VTuber. She streams on Twitch and she actually has a burp counter on her Twitch stream that adds up the number of times she has historically burped throughout the development of her channel. Wow. There are some other streamers who will have a little volume gauge or a kind of resonance gauge, if you will, that show how reverberating their burps are. You mentioned the idea of taboo. Anna's character is very feminine. She often works with an anime persona on her screen, so a drawing of her character, if you will.
Clothed?
Clothed, yeah. She sort of looks like a kind of red demon figure, like a sexy demon.
But I would have assumed clothed. Again, it's not what you're supposed to do in polite company, so therefore if you're embracing it by being naked and saying this is a sex thing, that would cheapen the titillation.
Samantha specifically says she doesn't like nudity in the porn and erotica that she seeks out. if someone is,
Gives the game away, doesn't it?
Yeah, legs akimbo and
Yeah.
a JJ splayed to the world.
Yeah.
It all seems a bit too deliberate. Part of what appeals to her about burping is that it is something that you do with people you feel chilled out around.
Yes,
it's
yes,
a relaxed
there's
thing.
that too. I was thinking it's a taboo, but also you're right. When you're really relaxed with friends, you don't care. Yeah.
In fact, she said, I asked her what her favourite go-to burp video is, and she said it's a clown vor video. So girls dressed as clowns pretending to eat people. They both burp, but then one of them carries on burping, and the second girl is kind of like surprised and shocked about it. So it has this sort of like element of comedy to it and unexpectedness. But she said in conversation with me, oh, they happen to be topless, but that's by the by. Another thing about burps is they come from inside the body. Like, how much more intimate can you get than a gas that actually has been deep inside of a person? They also remind people of an innocent, childlike time. We burp freely as children. Often we do it competitively.
Yes, I remember the very talented 10-year-olds that I knew who could muster one up on demand. I never
Yeah,
could.
Samantha's first inkling that she was into burping came around the age of 13, where she saw a YouTube compilation of burps. But then she went on to pay girls at school when she was like 14, 15 to burp into her ear. Yeah.
No.
I did ask, oh, what did these girls think? Did they find it odd? Oh, the weird kid is going to give me a tenner for me to go.
A tenner?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what the
50p
economics
surely
of,
is the going rate for a burp.
economics of burping.
Get a blowjob for a fiver.
In high school. Let's not go down this.
Well, I mean, I'm presuming we're talking in the
particular
90s.
school
Anyway,
corridor.
carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for her, part of the appeal is that obviously in her teens, she was just starting to become aware that this was more of a sexual thing for her. But it definitely has this nostalgic, innocent, harking back to when life was simple. And a lot of people speak to that. It's funny. It's frequently people laugh at burps. So there's that idea of releasing your inhibitions. A lot of people spoke to me about early memories of dominant women. It was their mum's raucous best mate who would belch loudly after they'd been on the white wine. Or sometimes like people who were like quite rough or maybe even a bit bullying, like burping on them on purpose to humiliate them. And then over time, as they passed into adulthood, that experience had developed into something that became sexualized. Lots of people said that cartoons that they enjoyed, this happens so often, doesn't it? Whether it's smoking, farting, bloated bellies, cartoons of people burping or being inflated and then popping and all the air coming out of them.
Yes.
And then a really interesting aspect. I don't know whether it's just happenstance, but lots of the people I spoke to who were into burping were also trans or non-binary. And for them, there was something about the idea of women burping, doing something sort of quote unquote blokey. And that play of gender stereotypes that they found comforting. The idea that somebody could be masculine and feminine at once and that could be attractive. Yeah. I did ask Anna whether she found burping on video and on streams to be an empowering feminist act. Well, if you've been told all your life that you shouldn't do that and that that's uncouth, and then you're making money out of it and you're burping loudly and proudly, does that feel, like you're taking back the power? And she said, yes, to some extent. She did also say that ultimately, though, a lot of the people who are paying for this content are men. So some days she feels like she's taking those men's money and yay for her. And other days she's like, I'm doing things, a bodily function to please men's ears. So it ain't clear cut.
So the person who got in touch did ask, how do I approach this topic with sex workers? How do I find basically someone who'll do this for me on demand?
This took turns that I did not anticipate. Surely something like burping for a sex worker who caters to that kind of fetish shouldn't be... I didn't imagine they'd be that hard to find. But Anna and Samantha really enlightened me here. They said, first of all, one of the issues and one of the reasons that people might be disgusted if you approach them and say, I would like to pay you to burp on me or burp for me or burp on video whilst I watch, is that a lot of people who've gotten into making this kind of video content haven't entered knowingly as sex workers.
Yes.
So there's an uncomfortable large slice in the middle of the Venn diagram here of...
I just burped. I just did it. It sort of came out my nose because I was suppressing it. But it was there. I've been building on it for the whole time we've been talking.
Do you feel
so
relieved?
weird? I do feel better, but it just seems
empowered?
so odd. I feel feminine and empowered. But it was there the whole way. It's so weird. Like, just talk about it. It's like the yawning thing, isn't it? Sorry, carry on. Yes, so they're not sex workers when they got into it. Yeah.
Have you seen those people who on TikTok, for example, pretend to be NPCs, non-playable characters, and they'll do they'll nod like Sims,
Ollie
and
Pitt
then
showed
do
me that
the
once.
bubble pop 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 sound, or they'll blink and things like that. Some of those people burp. And
I suspect they do.
Yeah, and there's a system where people can pay them in tokens to do certain acts as though they are a character in a video game on command. And some people with burp fetishes will access those kind of streams, pay for the burps, and the person producing them won't necessarily know that they're doing something that's sexual.
But it's a sex thing.
Yeah. So then when someone slides into their DMs and goes, can I pay you to make a video where all you do is burp and fart and call me a little maggot or whatever? it might be surprising to them.
Yes.
Anna told me that she has friends who make burp content who've kind of sort of got into it because it feels quite harmless, and then have had a kind of crisis when people have asked for more hardcore stuff.
I mean, that's the Web 2 story all over, isn't it? Like, it starts as I'm liberated to create content that otherwise wouldn't make it, and then it becomes following an algorithm to do things that you don't even understand why they're popular.
Yeah. But I found that really fascinating. Some people I don't think will respond well to a sexual request because they don't consider themselves to be doing sexual content.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that would go for us, wouldn't it? Here we are talking about sex. There's probably a tiny minority of our audience that does actually get off to this. It's inevitable because we're talking about sex. And yet, if someone sent us a thing saying, I'll give you 500 quid, would you do a bespoke one for me so I can knock one out? We would feel very uncomfortable about that because that's not what we're doing.
Yeah. The context is often perspective dependent, isn't it? The person consuming this for them, the content might be sexual. For the person producing it, it may not be. It's a very amorphous area.
It is fascinating, but it seems to me like this person who's written in does want someone to burp on them, like someone in the room.
Anna warned that some dominatrixes will find being asked to burp a degrading thing. As we have advised previously, part of the etiquette of being a good customer to a dominatrix is that you always read everything carefully on their website of what they will and won't do, what they do and don't offer, and that you approach them in a respectful way. Anna and I spoke about the phenomenon of fetish fishing, and this happens a lot with burping. Because it is something that people do playfully or by accident, there are certain fetishists into this type of content who will try and goad others into doing it sort of naively. They'll try and trick someone into doing it. And this has happened to me. People have slid into my DMs and gone, me and a friend were just having a conversation and we love listening to you on the radio. We wondered, though, do you ever feel like you're going to burp? Have you ever burped?
You've had that?
Yes. Yeah. Because of what I do for a living, I can see that a mile away as somebody trying to trick me into producing fetish content for them, or produce a sound, or engage them in talking
Even
about
just
burps.
A message could be horny for them.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's just the mere act of chatting about burping is enough for them. It feels like a win. Famously, amongst female journalists, there's a guy who, he's been doing it for years, tries to tell women journalists that he's got a great story for them all about this man who loves being wedgied. And I see it all the time in the forums that I'm in to support female journalists who are freelancers. time and time again, someone will go, oh, there's this unusual man who tells me that he's got a great scoop all about how popular wedgies are. Or sometimes he'll pretend to be incensed that somebody tried to trick him into doing this. And he was on a tube train and somebody Bluetoothed a video of someone being wedgied and he was appalled by it. And it's all a trick.
To get you to talk about wedgies to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only is that disingenuous and non-consensual, but I think there's also a more concerning dark side to it, in that it's the act of getting one over on women and tricking them into it that is also part of the thrill of being like a little bit predatory and of feeling like you have fooled somebody. There's an interesting dichotomy there, isn't there, of purporting to be turned on by powerful women insulting you by burping at you or humiliating you, but also belittling them by tricking them into doing that unwillingly.
Okay, so this is all fascinating, but I'm keen that we answer the question. So are you saying there really isn't someone advertising services of I will come to your house and burp on you?
Samantha made the point that lots of people offer to make videos, for example, for a short period of time because it doesn't feel too explicit to them. It feels like something they could maybe dash off as being silly in the future if they needed to explain it. Oh, it was just a nuts bonkers thing I did when I was a student because I needed the money.
Yeah.
So it's relatively safe as far as sex work goes. But those people tend to do belching for a while and then disappear. And Samantha says she finds it difficult to find content because it doesn't tend to be a long-term career option for a lot of people. So although there's a lot of content out there, finding someone who is actually willing to come round to your house and do it can be a little, you might find it a little trickier.
And we should say, if you are interested to see some burp fetish videos, we
Yes.
have linked some in the website. So modernman with 2ns.co.uk, available for you to peruse right now in the blog post to this episode. If you have a question of sex that you'd like to ask Alix in a future episode, what do you need to do with it?
If there's something you want to bring up, then head to modernman with 2ns.co.uk and hit feedback.